Really for us what it was about is improving people's lifestyle and really basically getting towards individuals that could help their health and well-being.
Once, in the before time long ago, the Glens electoral area were lucky enough to receive funding from the Public Health Agency for projects delivered by the Northern Area Community Network. In this video, we will outline some of the ways communities use those grants for the benefit of the local residents.
My name's Breach Conway and I'm the manager for Northern Area Community Network. We cover the 3 council areas in the northern area and we oversee a number of health and wellbeing projects and community development. We were approached by the Public Health Agency who wanted to commission the project in the local area.
The investment that was made in the Glens Healthy Places Project came from discussions that took place across government departments in our all department officials group, with a view to saying that wouldn't it be interesting and challenging to determine whether some focused investment in a place-based approach could bring together people to, I suppose, support the identification of health needs, identification of assets, the identification of priorities and the identification of programmes which might have the potential to point to further, more expanded and scaled work associated with improving health outcomes.
I think it was fabulous that Healthy Places were able to bring this project to the Glens. The Glens, as we know, a fabulously beautiful place, but has some challenges, like a lot of places do. And it just was a real opportunity to showcase health issues, what they are, what we can do ourselves to help do something about some of those health challenges, and also I think really importantly how we can work in partnership. And it was a great example of bringing central government, local government and community together to try to tackle some real issues.
And the main partners we had were the Northern Trust, the Causeway Coast and Glens Council, our partners in participatory works around the PB, and they were there really to start planning because it was a project with a very short life. We seen the opportunity that this was going to be delivered in the Glens DEA area, and we wanted to make sure that we had input to it and people knew local needs so that could be addressed. So we worked with a number of individuals and organised community groups in the area, came up with sort of 4 strands, and it was Glens Men, which is around tackling isolation and loneliness for men in the area.
At the very beginning, they brought together a sort of a core group of local men who they thought would be benefited by the programme, and they put it out to them so that it was very much driven by the user. They decided on things that they would like to do, and I think that the events themselves were less important than having an event that brought men together who wouldn't normally have been together. But the men came up with all kinds of things, like there was a visit to the blacksmith's foundry up near Antrim. Fantastic day. The men all got to work at the forge and hammer out steel. They had 2 big breakfast events where the men came together and breakfast was laid on, and the idea was that it would be a social event, but it would also be a planning event, so it would be an opportunity for the men to chat and talk about through which events they thought that we should do. And those were very successful. Lots of people got a chance to have their voice heard and to be able to talk about their lives and things they'd experienced. And it really established a bond between the men that I think carried on through the whole of the programme. So for me, those were the highlights.
Fresh Little Minds programme, which was around resilience and improving the mental health of young people in our primary schools across the area.
Here at Armoy Primary School, I was delivering the GROW programme to the year 5, 6 and 7 children. And the GROW programme looks at the AMBER approach. Okay, so AMBER's name is very, very special. AMBER's name stands for Anchor, Move, Breathe, Express and Relax. So it's a mental health and wellbeing programme to help children look a bit deeper into their feelings and their emotions, and to teach them skills and different strategies to manage.
My name is Amelia Kaur and I'm from Armoy.
And my name's Tina Kaur and I'm from Armoy and I'm Amelia's mummy. I noticed that she was starting to take responsibility for her own emotions, you know, and it was really special for me because I thought what she's learning with Fresh Little Minds, that's going to stay with her through her life. So as a mummy, it was reassuring to know that she was learning these skills and these strategies and techniques that, you know, when she's a little bit older, she might just be able to draw on and would be a help to her mentally and emotionally.
The kids just loved it, about raising their self-esteem, their confidence, and basically just a quiet place for them to take deep breaths, and they were just delighted that they were able to yawn, and that was encouraged. They just felt so comfortable and were allowed to express themselves freely, more so than in a busy classroom.
We had the Open Pot programme, which was participatory budgeting, and we focused primarily that in the Armagh area to, I suppose really at the end of the day, to have as much impact we could over a 3 to 4 month window.
Whenever we were approached about the Open Pot, I was very reluctant to see how it could work in Armagh. I was never experienced any participatory projects before, but with the enthusiasm we ran with it, and I was completely overwhelmed with the success of it and how the whole community bought into it, and it gave people a real good sense of feeling of Armagh, and also helped that people see what all was about Armagh as opposed to just the individual groups and associations that they're in with themselves. The voting night was a new experience, standing with your pitch for the people to come in and see, and again completely overwhelmed with the amount of people that were there and the amount of good pitches that the community had brought along. The pitch I was associated with was an Easter egg hunt in the village, and the kids were all over it. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we couldn't run our Easter egg hunt, but we had two very well and kind Easter bunnies who hand delivered an Easter treat to each an individual kid in the village, which was fantastic and which was received just as well. So it was nice that I was still able to fulfil the pot of money that we had received.
With the money that I won, I bought a lot of equipment for the summer scheme, a lot of craft equipment and outdoor sports equipment and big games. Unfortunately, we didn't get to use them this year because of the coronavirus pandemic. We didn't get to run our summer scheme, but they're still in the store and we'll definitely make use out of them next year. So we're looking forward to that.
I found that the Open Pot night and the start of the Open Pot monies COVID just came just as we had got our Open Pot up off the ground, and in a way I feel that actually helped us with our response to COVID-19 in the Armagh community. The Open Pot raised our profile, helped people see that we're here for everybody, and then whenever we put out the ask for volunteers, we were completely overwhelmed with people wanting to support. Obviously COVID-19 was something new to everybody, but more often than not it's the same faces, the same volunteers that does everything within the community. So it was really refreshing to see more people actually wanting to get involved, and I feel the Open Pot definitely helped re-engage us with the community in a way that we hadn't before. So that was definitely a positive for us in terms of dealing with COVID-19. What I would love to see is Open Pot coming back again and again, and allowing people the opportunity to actually decide where they want the money spent in their village. I think that was the whole idea, where people felt empowered. And then we had Small Grants programme, which really was to build, I suppose, assets in the area in terms of resources and programmes for local groups.
The Glens Storytelling Cultural Heritage Group applied for funding to do a project called A Glimpse of the Glens, and the idea was to organise different storytelling projects targeted at different groups of people throughout the area. We got funding to deliver storytelling sessions to 11 community groups, mostly of older folk. We also got funding to run a course called Tales Among the Trees, which was to train people to tell stories, and we had very much an environmental theme to that. We received money to deliver a concert of 2 pieces about World War I and World War II called Wartime Tales, and then finally we were delivering a workshop on researching the folklore of the area to do some professional development for our storytellers. Obviously we were very excited as a new group to get that money. The only drawback was there was a very tight time scale. The money had to be used by the end of March, so it's almost panic stations to set things up. If there'd been more lead-in time, more planning time, I think we could have done an even better job. plus the fact that nobody could have predicted COVID-19 coming in, which meant that we didn't get delivering our sessions. But of course, undeterred, we looked for new ways, so our storytellers recorded stories which were then put out on a new site for the Glens area so that people could actually hear those stories. We couldn't help but be moved by the feedback from the older people. Because when you're working with older people sharing stories, it's not just the storyteller, it's the feedback you get where the older people have a chance to share their tales. So those would be the highlights for me.
I suppose the expectation, sometimes there is a language that we use about community engagement, community assets, identification of priorities, and in some ways those are terms. There was a genuine amount of feedback which seemed to indicate a lot of excitement associated with the bringing together people under the strands. The celebration event for the participatory budgeting process, bringing 300 people together, there seemed to be a lot of buzz and excitement and the identification of actions at a local level which really weren't there at the start of the process. So it really is very, as a kind of commissioner and within the process, it seemed to me that points to a model of work which really confirms the idea of engaging through local people to provide local opportunities for local programs, because those are the critical pieces to support our way of trying to get inroads into improving the bigger health outcomes across Northern Ireland. So delighted to get that feedback, delighted to hear about its success, the local champions and the local feedback about work being carried forward beyond this timescale of the funding is a challenge to us to say, well, how can we then further engage to support further work from here?
This is the essence of community planning. This is about, first of all, partnership between statutory agencies and the community, and at times the private sector, to really see how you can work best for the benefit of local people. As a council, we have been a small partner in some small participatory budgeting exercises, and again, the participatory budgetary element of this has shown how a rather small amount of money can make a massive difference in a community, how it can bring out some absolutely game-changing ideas, and how it can allow the community to actually take responsibility for its own health, and how some of those sometimes quite small initiatives can really make a massive difference.
So we're determined to kind of put more money into our investment in small grants and to the community networks, because they are the facilitator of that engagement to make the model happen, which is what successfully happened here. I think we've got also a challenge around the mental health and well-being of children across Northern Ireland and the Northern area. So the Fresh Little Minds investment is part of one of the programmes we're looking at to see how can we do better in terms of supporting improved emotional well-being. And we now have a regional framework with the Department of Education and Department of Health to establish an emotional well-being framework within education for children. And programmes like that will be one of the programmes considered to be part of the solution for improving those outcomes.
I suppose the highlights for us were we weren't as much focused in our role with Fresh Little Minds programme, that was a separate contract, but the three other ones in terms of the Glens Men, I think it's fair to say that a couple of our staff were very highly focused and involved and engaged in that, and that was great results in terms of getting men are involved in community development, but whenever you look back and realise it's an awful lot of women drive it, and women who are involved and women who are doing a lot of the action. And we realised there was a big gap there in terms of men, in terms of getting involved in the local community group, sporting organisations. So we reached out to a lot of men, and in total we had about 125 men took part and were really active and really keen. And it really was just a taste for them men in that period of time. And then we're very conscious now that we have got their input, we've got the enthusiasm for the men, and we want to continue that on, and we're very keen, we're looking at other avenues of how we can help that. And then other things as well was the small grants was a bit bigger than we would normally deal with. It was £5,000, so it meant groups were able to maybe have a bigger capital good really too, because they had an awful lot of time to deliver a £5,000 programme, but they're able to buy something a wee bit more than they normally would afford through our small grants, which means they have an asset left and something beyond the life of the project. And then in terms of participatory budgeting in Armoy, it was amazing. I think it's just great to see for a village like that, the enthusiasm of people coming out and getting involved, and a way of giving people a voice. Because, you know, I've been involved in this work for several years, and you know, we have parameters on how we can work and restrictions for people, but it was so open. And I think actually the groups found it strange to deal with. They had no rules and regulations they had to abide by. It was, yes, okay, you can do whatever you wish, come up with a plan to deliver it. And it was fantastic to see something like that being tested, and the response that it got from people. They really, really wanted to use it and to make it work. And I think for us, it's a great way to go forward, not only for giving out small grants, but also for making decisions locally, because all too often we're restricted in our decision making, and people now just don't want to get involved anymore because they realise they go out to consultation or review and their views aren't taken on board. Whereas with PB, it's a totally different way. I think that was fantastic. So that's the 3 projects, but the other thing I think for us as a network was a partnership working. The delivery of Healthy Places as a model is something that really shouldn't be lost at this stage, because we had a great team of staff through, as I say, the Trust, the Council and Participatory Works, in terms of people coming through with great ideas and motivation and stuff there, and great enthusiasm. And if we lose that, I think that's a big chain in the project lost, and I don't know how we replace that.
Well, this story isn't quite over, but the video is, and we hope you've enjoyed watching what was done with the funding received, for which local people are very grateful.